Could trying to be available to everyone be keeping you from being fully present with anyone? Stay tuned as we discuss setting boundaries at work and how creating healthy limits can make you a better physician, leader, and partner. Welcome back to the Resilient MD, the podcast and YouTube channel where we have honest conversations about medicine, burnout, and how to care for others without losing ourselves in the process. I'm Dr. Anna McDowell, a certified life coach, allergist, and a firm believer that small changes can create massive ripple effects. I am so glad you're here today because I want to talk about boundaries from a completely different perspective than you may ever have heard before. We often think about boundaries as saying no, protecting our time, or creating distance from people. Those things certainly matter. But over years, I have come to realize that some of the most important boundaries have had little to do with time. They have everything to do with protecting our attention. And once I understood that, it changed the way I practice medicine and even the way I live my personal life. For most of my career, I prided myself on being available. I used to tell all the staff I had an open door policy and they could reach out to me even if the door is not open. So they did. If my staff had a question, I answered it. If another physician needed something, I stopped whatever I was doing. They even got me out of patient visits to answer other physicians' questions, like phone consultations. If there was an administrative issue that required a quick decision, I handled it immediately. At that time, I thought I was being a good team player, a conscientious colleague. After all, medicine is collaborative, and I wanted my staff to know they could come to me whenever they needed me. I never questioned that approach because it felt generous, responsive, and responsible. But after a while, I began noticing something that bothered me. The interruptions themselves weren't particularly long, most lasted less than a minute. Someone would ask about a scheduling issue, an insurance question, a medication review, or another patient waiting in a different room. Sometimes it was an administrative decision that seemed small enough to answer on the spot. The problem wasn't the interruption. The problem was what happened afterward. Every time I stopped evaluating the patient sitting in front of me, or completing the chart, or working in whatever I was doing, my train of thought was interrupted. And I had to change gears and then go back to what I was doing before. So change gears again. I had to stop thinking like an allergist and start thinking like a manager. Then I had to switch back. So I found myself rereading my notes, reviewing the history again and again, trying to remember exactly where I had been in my clinical reasoning before someone knocked on the door. And I realized something else. When I answered administrative questions in the middle of the clinic, I often didn't have all the information I really needed. I was making decisions quickly because someone was standing in front of me and waiting for an answer, not because I had taken the time to think them through. One day, it finally dawned on me. I wasn't serving anyone particularly well. The patient in front of me deserved my full attention. My staff deserved thoughtful answers instead of rushed ones. The patients who weren't physically in front of me, the answers for those phone messages that were not really urgent, but the staff just wanted to get done, well, they also deserve careful decisions, not answers made while my mind was somewhere else. So I made a simple change. Unless something was truly urgent We wouldn't discuss administrative issues or unrelated patient questions while I was actively still seeing patients. Those conversations would wait until I finished seeing patients for that period of time, that session, or there was an appropriate moment that I could stop. It was not easy at first. It took time for the stuff to get used to it. I had to gently redirect them many times. They kept coming, and I would just answer with a question. Is it urgent? Followed by, then can we discuss it later? I was consistent, and eventually they learned. And I learned too. Of course, I worried at first. I was concerned people would think I wasn't being helpful. Would they think I had become less approachable? Well, the opposite happened. The quality of my attention improved. I felt more present during patient visits. The conversations with my staff became more thoughtful because I could give them my full attention now instead of half of it. I made better decisions for the clinic as well. And perhaps the biggest surprise of all, my clinic actually ran more efficiently. Looking back, I realized that what I had created wasn't simply a boundary. It was a system that protected my attention. We spend a great deal of time talking about time management, especially in medicine nowadays. We attend courses on productivity, we color code calendars, we look for ways to become more efficient all the time. But in my observation, attention management is even more important because time is fixed, attention is finite. And the quality of our attention determines the quality of almost everything we do. Research in cognitive psychology has shown that every time we switch from one mentally demanding task to another, our brain pays what researchers call a switch cost. Even when the interruption lasts only a few seconds, the brain has to disengage from one line of thinking, load a new one into working memory, and then reconstruct the original thought process afterward. Anyone who has ever been interrupted while writing a complicated note, reviewing a difficult case, or thinking through a diagnosis knows exactly what this feels like. The interruption may take 30 seconds. Recovering your train of thought can take several minutes. Multiply that by dozens of interruptions over the course of a day, and it is easy to understand why so many physicians go home mentally exhausted. That doesn't happen only in medicine. That happens in every demanding profession. The more I reflected on this, the more I realized that the same thing happened outside the clinic in my personal life. Many women live in a constant state of interruption. We call it multitasking. And I have always been so proud of my ability to do that. We're making dinner while answering text messages, listening to our children while thinking about tomorrow's clinic schedule, trying to enjoy a vacation while checking our inbox. Yeah, we shouldn't be doing that. Reading a book while mentally planning the grocery list. Even when we're resting, we're often mentally somewhere else. Our attention has become fragmented. And when attention is fragmented, presence becomes almost impossible. That is one of the reasons so many women tell me they feel like they're never fully anywhere. They're at work thinking about home. They're at home thinking about work. They're with their family feeling guilty about their patients. They're at work worrying about whether they're spending enough time with their family. Eventually, it begins to feel as though life is happening all around them, but they are never fully inside it. And the worst thing is that this starts very early. My sister and her family came to visit from Brazil this summer. We went to Myrtle Beach and New York City together. They drove to New York from here, so they visited other cities along the way. We were having so much fun. But before the trip was even over, my 16-year-old niece was already talking about the next trip. Nothing was planned. My sister didn't have any other trip planned. My niece was making the plans. She was trying to go all Inception on them. Did you ever watch that movie? She was not fully enjoying the present. This amazing trip provided to her by my sister and brother-in-law, and had already turned her attention to a future that may never really happen. This was a wake-up call to me. How early to start, and how we do this to ourselves. Before we move on, I want to pause for a moment. I'm curious, have you been feeling exhausted, discouraged, or frustrated and not quite sure why? Are you quietly wondering if this is just how life in medicine has to be? Well, I see you. You don't have to give up on yourself or your dreams. And the good news is that you don't have to figure it all out alone. I built a 6-week one-on-one coaching program designed to help women physicians gently remove the barriers keeping them stuck and rediscover clarity, balance, and purpose. It is called the Resilient MD, just like the podcast and YouTube channel. If you are ready, you can begin today. Schedule your free clarity call. The link is in the show's notes. One of the things coaching has taught me is that boundaries are not walls. They are decisions about where we want our attentions to live. That may sound like a small distinction, but it's really a profound one if you think about it. When you think of boundaries only as saying no, they often feel restrictive. When we understand them as protecting what matters most, they become acts of intention. The boundary I created in my clinic wasn't about pushing people away. It was about fully honoring the person who had entrusted me with their care and was sitting right in front of me. It was about making the best decision for the clinic after reviewing and analyzing all the information available. Ironically, by becoming less available in those moments, I became more available where it mattered most. I often wonder how many areas of our lives would improve if we stopped asking, how can I be available to everyone? And start asking, what deserves my full attention right now? Those are very different questions. As physicians, we're trained to believe that being interrupted is simply part of the job. And to some extent, that's true. Medicine will always be unpredictable. Emergencies will happen. Patients will need us. Teams have to communicate. None of that is going away. But there is a difference between responding to genuine urgency and living in a constant state of accessibility. One is necessary, the other is a habit, and habits can be changed. Not overnight, not perfectly, but intentionally. Over the past year, I've realized that protecting my attention has become one of the kindest things I can do for myself. It allows me to be more present with the people I love. It allows me to listen more carefully, to think more deeply, to enjoy conversations without constantly reaching for my phone, to write, to coach, to simply be where I am. And perhaps that's what boundaries have always been about. Not creating distance, but creating presence. Before we finish today, I like to leave you with one thought that has stayed with me since I changed the way I used to practice in clinic. Every time we allow ourselves to be pulled in 10 different directions at once, we unintentionally send ourselves a message that everything deserves our attention equally. But that isn't true. Some moments deserve all of us. The patient sitting in front of us, the child telling us about their day, the conversation with our spouse, quiet cup of coffee before the house wakes up. Those moments are too important to experience with only half of our attention. Now, listen to this carefully. The greatest gifts we can give the people we care about, and truly ourselves as well, are the moments of our undivided presence. Obviously, it cannot be done all day long, just one moment at a time. Remember, my wings grow when I listen. You never know who might need this conversation today, so share it with a friend if it resonated with you. In next week's episode, I will explore why guilt often shows during personal growth. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the next episodes. And if today's episode resonated with you, I created something to support you even further. It's called the People Pleasing Reflection Guide. It is a thoughtful resource for high achievers who are tired of always putting themselves last. You can grab it through the link below. Your feedback means so much. If you found today's episode helpful, please consider leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or your favorite platform and liking the video on YouTube. Every single one helps this podcast grow and support more amazing people like you. And if you have extra minutes to spare, it will mean so much if you can actually write some words, some kind words about the podcast and the show. I really would appreciate it. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Until next week, take good care of yourself and of your attention. I'm Dr. Anna McDowell, a resilient MD just like you. I'll see you next week.